Hello and happy Monday, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And yes, I still have my voice, as you know, or maybe you don't know. I did a solo stream at 10 a.m. for about 60 minutes talking about how the CMA basically is going to get nothing in the end. We have new information that is breaking about Microsoft basically pushing back on the CMA's complaints for cloud on every aspect. And ultimately, I don't know what is going to happen, but it does appear that there is not going to be a divestiture of Call of Duty for cloud like we originally thought there was going to be. And Microsoft should keep it that way because there's no reason for it. Cloud has been sewn up, and obviously there's no console SLC. So the CMA ultimately, folks, in my opinion, and I could be 1,000% wrong here, is not only going to bend the knee, but they're going to tuck that tail between their legs, take their ball, and go home as they should, because they're one of the last countries not to approve this deal, and we know that they got it wrong because Kat said so. But we're not covering that today. What we're going to cover, folks, is what happened on Friday afternoon. And I have a very special guest here who had, folks, in my humble opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, fan reactions to an announcement that I have personally I've ever seen. I'm going to tell you this right now because I'm a man and I can admit it. I was crying like a baby, just like him. Ginger Prime, my brother, thank you so much for giving this old man's heart so much joy. Even though I'm not a Final Fantasy dude,
I need to be. We love everybody.
That's right, brother. Ginger Prime, how you feeling, brother?
I've been on cloud nine all weekend, and thanks so much for having me back. We got a podcast a couple times in the past, so it's really great to be back here with you today. And this is 10 years of longing, more than that. So being the fact is, I got people texting who were at FanFest, and there are people who were saying like the reaction at FanFest wasn't like, oh, the people weren't excited. I was like, what Xbox fan was in that crowd? Like, the game isn't on that platform. That's what I've been fighting for so long. I've gotten like text messages all this week about like, for my friends who only have one platform, like gamers that I know that are like, they can't afford every platform. They're like, oh, I have an Xbox. Oh, I'd love to play Final Fantasy, but I don't have that option. Right. And so now it's kind of being resolved, but this is me fighting 10 years, like putting out campaigns and signings and always just trying to bring this to the forefront and not knowing that obviously it was coming. I was just absolutely overtaken by joy. So much so that it's like I cried, I lost my voice. It was just like, oh my gosh. And then people started giving me like in-stream crap. And then I got mad at them. Like you can leave. Like, if you don't like that I'm excited, if you don't like that I have joy in my heart for games, I don't even know why you hit subscribe or follow in the first place, man.
I agree.
Nothing that anybody who truly likes what I put out in the universe is surprised by what happened. It's just that people, I don't know. That's in and of itself, it doesn't bother me. People like just ignore them. I was like, no, I've had more entertainment all weekend from both the positive, overwhelming, like the positive voices I think are overwhelming. But it's the negative voices that do pop up, and for me, it just makes me laugh because I'm just like who in the it's a weird hill to die on. It's a weird hill to sit here and say, yeah, this guy's happy. I'm gonna try. Like I gotta stop that. This is bad. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, you do you, but that just seems like a weird thing to kind of wake up, maybe. And so I just said that some guys just need a swift kick in the balls to get smacked back to reality. So yeah. 14 on Xbox, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that, and maybe sit down on the couch and maybe have a conversation with a professional, folks. And I don't say that in jest. I'm telling you from a professional who was taught in my 21-year career as a police officer how to read certain situations that involve what we would call an emotionally disturbed person, which you see you see happening, unfortunately, on social media, because it is a unpoliced platform to some extent until you start making threats. And then, of course, we come knocking at your door at 3 o'clock in the morning and we do lock you up. That's a reality. And I've done it. But enough of that kind of craziness. We're going to get into what happened. I have his reaction on tap. We're going to watch it. We're going to watch the reaction live. We're going to get his take on it. But I think the crux of the conversation really is going to be the significance of this. Like I was telling Ginger Prime in the green room, everyone understands that I have a real beef with Square Enix personally for a multitude of reasons. I'm not shy about it. I do not like how some of their explanations towards bringing in other cultures into their games was explained. I thought it was very, very poor. I don't like how they have thrown entire studios under the bus. I don't like that. So I have not supported them. I will not support them until change comes. I've said that before. I want to play Final Fantasy 16 because it's not Final Fantasies, but I will not buy it new. That means I will rather take my $60 and give it to someone on eBay as a used copy. It's fine because at least I'm paying someone, not paying Square Enix. They've already been paid by said person, but they weren't paid by me. So I'm going to keep up my end of the bargain. But before we get into all of that, we got to welcome in the rest of the panel. And Crispy Bomb has some thoughts. Crispy, good afternoon, kind brother. How are you feeling?
Oh, yeah, the spice-o-meter has just went to I don't know, like past Reaper, and I guess it's Pepper X at this point. I don't even know. Like this is something I completely, when I watched your reaction, I got your joy completely. And that's because of my brother. I like, he's literally like, he's my best friend, and I've known him, you know, for nearly my entire life. And this is something that he's wanted forever. So when I saw Phil come on stage, I also lost my ish and was like, oh, wow, he's now going to be like, well, I don't need a PlayStation anymore. He has been the sole person that's been like, the only reason why I have a PlayStation is because of Final Fantasy Online in general, you know, because it's always been, you know, Xbox, we don't care. Now all of a sudden they care, and it's really a great time to see. You know, I think Phil got his flowers even abruptly, like he was sitting there like awkwardly at times, like, oh guys, like we don't have to go through all this, and I loved it. So it's just great to be here, and we're gonna get into it.
Yes, we certainly are. Web Dave, hello, sir. I mean, you're gonna have a lot to say. You had a great show, great turnout on yesterday's Gamers Council podcast, which you do with Ratchet each and every Sunday. How the heck are you, kind sir?
I'm doing great, man, and this is exciting. I'm really glad that Ginger's on. This is going to be really cool. I can hardly wait to get into his feelings, and I also I felt joy for him with his response, and I thought that was what I took away from it. So anyway, awesome. This is going to be good, man. Let's get into it.
Thanks, man.
And I'm glad to have you here, brother. Thank you so much, as always. Of course, we already have 325 people here. Hit the like button, please. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe if you're not subscribed. Maybe we'll get a lot of Ginger's fans will come and check out the show today, and then maybe, of course, many of the fans here can go check out Ginger after you see his reaction, because I think you should head over there and subscribe to him on YouTube. All of his information is in the show notes. All you gotta do is hit the subscribe button, folks. You're gonna enjoy it. But Fuzzy Belvedere, I mean, dude, in the last, I don't know, 72 hours, there's been so much news. There's some leaked Forza stuff with the lighting that looks like complete madness. Microsoft just tweeted a Kojima picture with them wearing Xbox's shirts. The CMA looks like they're going to take it on the chin, as they should. There is just so much. And we just got a confirmation, folks, that Stalker 2 is going to be playable. Oh, holy, I mean, I don't even know how I'm going to have the time to cover everything, but stay tuned to Double Barrel Gaming. How you feeling, Fuzzy? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Always awesome to have a special guest like Ginger Prime on here. It's basically his reaction is what gaming's about. It's all about the enjoyment. Let's not forget why we got into this hobby. So it's awesome having him on here. So many awesome topics and interesting things popping up between now and Gamescom, and probably for the remainder of the year. Xbox is on a roll. I think
Ooh,
this is just
yeah.
the warm up before the
Absolutely.
ABK announcement clears, and it's just going to keep ramping up from here on out. But man, I'm glad to be here. Awesome people in the chat today, man. Let's do this.
Yes, and I'm gonna stop the banner for a hot second so we can see that beautiful bald head of yours and your smile. So we'll get the ticker running in a hot second, folks. But look, what I'm gonna do is, of course, we're here to celebrate gaming. We're here to celebrate Ginger Prime because he did something that like I said in the opening, one of my favorite reactions in gaming for me, and I love those. I don't know who watches them, looks for them. I look for them. Specifically, the crowd that I love looking towards is the Nintendo crowd because a lot, especially when they were releasing fighters on a regular basis for Smash Brothers, you would see a room crowded with like 30, 40, 50 people. They're all Nintendo fans, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, folks. It's like their excitement is so bombastic and so intoxicating that if you are a human being, even if you're not a gamer, you got to be like, my God, that was amazing. And my favorite, I've watched it, my God, probably around 50 times. I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've watched it, is the Banjo-Kazooie reveal. And I've watched every one of them. And it's because I'm a Banjo stan. Everyone knows that I'm a big old nerd. I want a new Banjo. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this footage for a hot second. I'm going to do a screen share as I do. And I want to bring up Ginger Prime, his reaction. Now, let me just bring this up. Hold on just a second. Let me get to it. Let me just, okay, there it is, folks. So here it is. I'm going to, here we go.
Final Fantasy 14 fan.
Phil Spencer!
Phil Spencer! Phil Spencer! Phil Spencer, baby, let's go! Yeah!
I love it.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I love it.
改めまして、マイクロソフトゲーミング CEO の Phil
There you
Spencer
go, brother. Now listen, that's something to be proud of. That is what, folks, right there is what being a fan is all about. And of course, when I saw this, I watched it numerous times, probably at least double-digit times, because again, it's one of those moments that for me as a gamer, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
No one streams 5 days a week like I do if you dislike gaming. More
Yeah.
importantly, you have a distaste for the community. This community is what Mrs. BoomStick and I built this freaking show on, and that's why I had to have Ginger Prime on. Now, Ginger, obviously, we saw the reaction. You've already gave your take. I really want you to come at this from the fans' point of view. Why is this so important? Because you have been advocating for this for years.
Yeah.
I'd even damn say a decade, and that's based on what we talked about in the green room. Why is this so important, and why does it also cement why Phil Spencer is looked upon as this diplomat of gaming?
This is like obviously like a history in the making, easily over a decade. The reason why Final Fantasy 14 isn't on Xbox is because back when they were making the Xbox One, Xbox had policies that basically kept the game from that console. And since Phil Spencer took over, and this is the story of Phil Spencer and his leadership of Xbox this whole time, is he's systematically taken every barrier and eventually got it to where Final Fantasy 14 could come to Xbox. In fact, that's what he said. We want it. We're in talks. I'm going to get it on the Xbox platform. And then Yoshi P, in his credit, says, I want it on the Xbox platform. Here's what I need. And then eventually got to the point where he's like, yeah, Phil has been amazing. He's gotten rid of every roadblock. And here I am advocating for this because I believe I believe gamers should have choice. I don't think you should be forced to buy an Xbox. I don't think anybody should be forced to buy a PlayStation. Play where you want. The majority of gamers live on a budget. And so having Final Fantasy 14 be a game that could be played basically everywhere except for Xbox. That's what we've kind of seen happen over the last, I think, 5 years, maybe longer. It just became the except for this platform. and especially in a multiplayer game and a game that thrives off of a community around it, putting up these artificial walls, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. And so I've been really always wanting it to come to Xbox because I have friends, I know people, I've talked to people who are like, I'd love to play this game. Is it on Xbox? And the answer is, well, no. Well, I don't have the money for a high powered gaming PC. I don't, whatever the reason. And so I've been I drew a comic originally about when Titanfall was exclusive to the Xbox One. So I did a Titanfall Final Fantasy 14 crossover comic, and I thought it was really great. But I was like, anything that I could do to raise awareness, to keep this as just so that the Xbox team knows that there are people who want this to happen, that Square Enix team will always hear this voice, because I would always get pushback, especially from within my own community, is that they're like, there's no Final Fantasy fans on Xbox. I was like, that's not true. And they would push these false narratives. So only Xbox fans, they only just like shooters. It's like, this is not true. Like, this is in a way, not to say that it's like anywhere near what people have experienced in real life with actual racism, but it's like this a bigoted approach to this is we're going to just try to groupify and isolate these people and say they're less than, they don't deserve this game, and etc. And it's like, no. And so the fear that I've had, especially going into this fan fest, was that it seems like, especially with 16, that Square Enix is continuing to move away from this platform. And the fear was like, well, if it doesn't happen here, I don't know if it ever will happen. Is Sony going to buy them up? Are they going to block, continue to pay for games to skip the Xbox platform? And then Phil comes out on stage, and my only regret in the entire live stream was 1 minute before it happened, I just had this thought. I was like, man, how cool would it be if Yoshi P says, yeah, we got one more thing. Let me get my friend Phil Spencer out here.
Dope.
And I wish I said that. I wish, because I would have clipped that right at the end of that of what you guys ended up seeing clipped. But it was just it over 10 years of longing, over 10 years of advocating, over 10 years of being told that I've been wrong, that this is never going to happen, that the reasons, and people would just tell me reasons that weren't true. But,
right.
They would just make stuff up. And it's like, I mean, we live in the internet. Anybody can make up anything and try to sell it as a fact. And I'm like, no, here's the reasons. Here's the development thing. Here's what's being said, and I hope that it happens. And it did. And it was just, I was overwhelmed. And the clip goes longer. I have it over on the Work the Game channel, because that's where I was live streaming and covering it. Yeah. And I go into it. A lot of people started hating on me in the live stream. They were like, giving me crap before it happened, but I'm used to it, man. Like, we're gamers, right? If you're heading in and you got enemies in front of you, you're going in the right direction. So,
well, listen, we're happy to have you here. We're gonna talk about, like I said, I want to get to the rest of the panel, but before we get you out of here, I do want to talk about this specific partnership, because there's a lot to get into, folks. There were some walls, and again, we don't know for sure. We know Sony has in fact paid. How much we don't know, but we know that they have literally paid to block content from coming to Xbox. We don't know how entrenched they are with Square Enix, but apparently the new CEO, and I really want this to be an important finite point to the conversation. They appoint a new CEO in June of this year, and in July, which was a few days ago, look what happens. And now you can attack this chat and panel any way you want. Is it a money thing? Do we know that Square Enix is hurting for money? Yeah, they absolutely are. When you put out, first of all, I don't know the expenditure of Final Fantasy 16's budget, but I know that it's ridiculous. And right now, as of today, they've sold under 4 million copies. Now that's great. 4 million of anything is good. But when you consider, and again, this is where I have to really dig my heels here, folks, is Sony just announced that they sold 40, not shipped, sold 40 million PlayStation 5s. So if you're telling me an exclusive like Final Fantasy 16 that's supposed to be this bombastic approach to a never before seen Final Fantasy, almost Devil May Cry-esque, if you will, right? Only could barely manage that kind of percentage, 3.5 million to 40 million consoles. Folks, that's not good business. It's not on PC, it's not on Xbox, it's on PlayStation 5, and their fans, who are the loudest of the bunch, only stepped up to the plate 3.5 million times. That's not acceptable business. And Square Enix knows this because they are hurting. So this deal to bring, and again, I don't know if they're going to sell as many or even less than those amount of copies on Xbox, but I can tell you this right now, at least they're going to get sales because these games eventually will be made available. There is more to this story, Ginger Prime, which we will get into than just Final Fantasy 14 because of what Phil specifically said on stage. We'll get to that. Crispy Bomb, let's get to your hot take on the reaction and the reaction from the community, which was a bit disappointing.
Are we supposed to like gaming or supposed to
How dare you like a game?
throw people under the bus and, make yourself feel better? I don't know. I do remember that being called a bully. I don't know. I mean, somebody's having a good day. Oh, I just got to make it bad.
Yep.
I mean, is that where we're at as a society? I don't get it. And, you're right. Like, you should go and seek actual professional help.
Yep.
If you feel that this man's reaction has triggered you. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't do live streams like this, man. Good for you. Like, you do that. I don't do it because anytime I've seen Gears, and that could be my example, I get a little crazy. You know what I mean?
I'm a Gears head too. I'm jumping in on that, dude. Give me Gear 6. Let's fucking go. Excuse me, freaking go,
dude. Well, I'm just saying, like, and that's where I look at it. But I also, like, my friend said one thing to me, and this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. He said, because of the way Square does their online, it is near impossible that Xbox is going to be, for this unless a huge change happens. And I think we're at the point where the huge change is happening, where they're saying, you know what, like, we will allow this, and it's because we care about our gaming community. And there's been enough people that, like yourself, who have really been online and advocating for this, that, we have to do this because at the end of the day, Microsoft's new outlook is basically that, they want to cater to the gaming community and not just Xbox fans. And when it comes down to it, Final Fantasy has really always been known as a Sony platform, we'll say exclusive, not exclusive. Most of the games Xbox hasn't been able to get. Hopefully this changes. Maybe I become a fan down the road. You just never know. Okay. I like my ecosystem. I like Xbox. I've been on Xbox Live for 10 plus years. I've had my account,
controller
removed at times because, I just wasn't online. I didn't have the money to be able to pay for online. But every time I put this I have all my cards on there. I've never had my identity stolen. I've never had any issues. And it's the trust in that ecosystem. And you have to keep in mind, and you don't know this, Prime, but I was a huge PlayStation fan before that.
Yeah, I didn't know
that. Yeah, I mean, Gears is literally, that's where I say exclusives matter, because Gears is literally the reason that I bought an Xbox One. When they said, oh, we're making Gears Ultimate Edition, I was like, I'm in. You know what I'm saying? Like, now I'm in, because I didn't like the Connect thing. I didn't like the wording. They were in a bad crux. It felt like they were trying to kill the brand. And I feel like Phil is reaching, like, the amount that Phil got so much love in that video. He was sitting there like with a cheese smile, like, come on, guys, enough's enough.
He
like,
sure
was.
To be fair, though, also, like, you gotta, like, there's the translation, there's a lot of things that are going into that, like, live presentation that I was like, all right, yeah, it was what I wanted, but yeah,
people were like, oh, oh, it's cringe. And I'm like, no, they're
Yeah.
trying to make sure everybody, you know, whether they're English speaking or, you know, Japanese speaking, like, you know, they understand what's going on. And
Yeah.
I get that. But I think, you know, there were certain points where like, let's shake hands. It feels like, do we really have to do this? I'm already on stage. Like, you know, his face was like, it was like, you know, but he does appreciate it. And I think he knows that, you know, like, this is a big deal because in the end, like, all we've been talking about is Square is going to be bought by PlayStation. And it's like, so basically Final Fantasy is never coming to Xbox. And that has just been debunked because this is the most important game. I don't care. Like this one, the online element is the most important game. This is the perfect step to bring into Xbox because the online community, and I think you can attest to this, is incredible on Xbox. We are just known to just we love talking to each other, having good conversations, playing a game we love. And that's something that, you know, I think Xbox fans that aren't the fanboys, because there are on both sides, but the loudest ones seem to be on PlayStation that make up stuff that is just, it's not logical. And I believe that did that against you. I believe a lot of those people were PlayStation fans and they're so mad about it that they don't know what else to do but to attack the person that had some joy about it. And I'm just going to leave it at that for that. I mean, the reaction was purely genuine. You can't make this stuff up. It wasn't fake like some people are probably acting it was. It is legitimate, and I don't
know how to fake that. Like, it's like,
well,
man,
it's
give me the Oscar,
legitimate.
please. Let's go.
And the only thing I'll say is it's legitimate because my buddy, you know, I have experience. I know how difficult this may have seemed to you guys that this actually happened, and that's something that, you know, is truly special, and it also shows that Microsoft is willing to work with everybody. And that's something that, you know, is going to continue as long as Phil or even, let's say, Sarah takes over. They want these games on our platform, and I think that's important, and it means a lot to me because if I'm not a fan, that does not mean that somebody else isn't.
It's interesting. Like, you did talk about PlayStation kind of being the connection with Final Fantasy, and that's, I would, in my mind, that's still more the recent, because the first, you know, 6 games were exclusive to Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and eventually, like, you know, obviously PlayStation is the most forefront of that mind, and hopefully, essentially, people can look at Final Fantasy as that universal brand. Like, when you're talking about the number of sales, like at 4 million. Well, I mean, it's also an M-rated game. Like, there's a couple things that I could say, like, yeah, you know, there's also a lot of games that came out in June, you know, so I'm not going to dog them for 4 million, but I would think that'd be 8 easy if it was on PC. The number of people who got hurt by the fact that it is PS5 exclusive, and I mean hurt because you're talking about a narrative focused RPG where it's linear. It's not like I can play and have a different experience. It is telling a story, and then I play the character and I build the character the way that I want, and that is essentially the control that I have. But it's telling a story, and so now you're asking a massive population of fans to avoid the internet, to avoid any chance of spoilers. Imagine if I was like, hey, by the way, there's a great movie. It's an absolute must play. I would say 16 is a must play game. I really love it. I haven't finished it yet, and we're not talking spoilers, but imagine I'm like, hey, there's this movie, and it's in Waco, Texas. You got to get to Waco, Texas to go see this movie. And if you don't, well, you got to like opt out of all conversation for perhaps a year at a minimum before you might have the opportunity to play it. That's absurd. And the defense force that comes into play that makes it justified. It's like, listen, Square Enix got paid. This is business stuff. Okay, I can understand. I can understand, but I'm not going to champion that to cut people out, especially of a narrative game. Like, and you know, like, that's just me. That's always going to be my take. That's the hill I die on. I eat crap all the time for this take, namely from PlayStation fans who I love. I have a PS5. It's a great platform. I prefer the Xbox controller. This is stuff I've said publicly. I have the Elite Series 2, my favorite controller. Second favorite, I do love the PS5 controller. They did a great job.
Me too.
But that's my preference. And again, we're arguing over preferences and opinions, like in a way that it's, you know, And so I take umbrage with the thing I come out and say publicly is like, when people start to treat video games as the religion, that's where I draw a line. That's why I say there's a real problem here. And that's what it is. It just becomes like, it's not about a discussion. It's not about like, oh, I like this and you like that. That's cool. What do you like about this? It's about like, no, you're wrong. And now I'm going to try and shut you down. And I say this as a religious person, but I'm not going to sit here and go and start trying to beat people over the head with what I believe. And that's what I feel some gaming and some gamers, quote, with quotes around it, have taken it upon themselves to start and try to evangelize into a degree that I find very off-putting. In fact, it makes me want to play your console or your game less when you have that, when you have that fervency, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, a fantastic point, Dave. I want to bring you into the conversation, but I want to just bring up a point. Now, Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered series. So good. Yeah, it's if you're an OG like myself and Ginger and Crispy and yourself and a few others, many people in the chat, Pixel Bit G being one of the OGs as well, Punty, being an OG, this just I can go through the list is as long as my arm. What's interesting is this partnership is going to stop what I'm about to read to you. Now, this amazing, absolutely astonishing collection of Final Fantasy OG games 1 through 6 is available on literally every platform in the entire planet except Xbox. Mm-hmm. You have it PC, mobile, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch digitally. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I actually think it's even on Amazon's service, which is crazy, but it's not available on Xbox. Let's get your hot take on Ginger Prime's reaction to a game very similar to this that he has personally advocated for a decade, is finally coming in spring of 2024, thanks to this new partnership. Phil Spencer just getting the work done.
Yeah, his reaction was priceless, and I love it. It like I said, it's the joy. All right, let's take a step back and say that there were definitely some ponies that were like, oh, he's faking it, or why would you be so excited that Phil Spencer came out? And it was like, you missed the point altogether. He was excited because Phil Spencer being there means that the 10-year drought on the Xbox for this game that they had talked about years ago wanting to bring to the platform were resolved. I know that a lot of it at the beginning was that Square had an issue with their market getting hacked, and a lot of information was leaked. As far as like customers' information was leaked out, that was 10 years ago, something like that, when that happened. So that was one of the the dampers that kind of put a little hold on the project until they got some things worked out and some assurances from Square that they were going to be able to keep control over it. But that basically was a Sony problem that happened, which triggered that with the play online. And that kind of was the catalyst at first, and then all the other things that fell into place recently. You can't take lightly that they have a new CEO, and everything seems to be coming up roses. I think there's a reason why the old CEO got replaced, and we kind of know now that things are kind of back on track. And the biggest takeaway, and I'm sure you were super excited about this too, not only is Final Fantasy 14 coming, which is great, but in future games. So that just opens it up to like, ooh,
yeah, what future games?
Yeah. Is it future games that are like that just haven't made it yet? That would be great, or is it future
Final Fantasy
games?
7R, where's that? And the sequel's coming out too. Like, oh man, let's go. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. This is a conversational podcast, as Boom says.
Thank you, sir.
Final Fantasy 17. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to try and lock it down for exclusive, but I guarantee you it's probably going to be on the Xbox now, at least. You know what I mean? Where before we were like, it's up in the air. Since 16's locked away, I just think it opens up the door for accessibility for gamers everywhere.
I'd like
I'm pretty
to get
excited about it.
I'd like to get y'all's thoughts on what I'm about to ask you, because like what Boom was talking about, it was one of the biggest frustrations I've had is in their messaging, where they kept saying we want to be global, we want to sell more games, we want to do all these things, and then every announcement was we're going to restrict and limit where the game is released, and it was constant. It was like it wasn't like, and so I was like, there for me, I was like, what is it? Are you trying to be like, how do you expect to be and sell more games when you're like not just cutting out one platform, but it was like they'd have these timed releases, like we're gonna release into the like whatever I forget, the Epic Game Store, for all these, they're selling every possible exclusive timed deal they can get, and it always made me concerned. Like it made me feel like they are hurting for money, that there is a problem, even though that like Final Fantasy 14 for them has been their cash
bread and
cow.
butter. Oh, they're making money hand over fist with 14. There's no doubt about it.
Right. So what do you guys think about that? They're just the messaging alone. I'm hoping the new CEO means that the messaging and the actions align, because I never felt like that what they were saying and what they were doing. I was like, it feels like I'm listening and seeing two different people in charge here. What do y'all think?
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Before we answer that question, because I do want to come around to that, because I think what you're asking is an absolutely finite point, which is what I want to get your answer from, and then we'll get everyone's answer. But I do want to bring Fuzzy to get your reaction to his hot take. But before we get to that, I want to catch up on Super Chats, but I want to read the quote from Phil Spencer live that was at this Final Fantasy event. He goes, "We deeply respect the rich legacy of Square Enix, and we look forward to building on the relationship that we have established in bringing Final Fantasy 14 to Xbox and partnering closely with you and the Square Enix team on future games." And the future games thing is really, really important. But the first super chat of the day comes the way of Drawn TJ, and this is why we love Drawn TJ, because he's a greedy gamer just like me. He drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Buy all of the studios on the list: and Arc System Works, Team Ninja, Wargaming, Crytek, then buy Square Enix and Sega, and then have a 49% invested stake into WB. We have superheroes." I mean, that is crazy, but you know what? Your tenacity cannot be denied. The next superhero game, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow on the Xbox Factor podcast, folks. Hasbro wants Xbox to not only bring their old games to Game Pass, folks. They want them to make a new Transformers game. They're gonna give them the license to work on Transformers, and it's probably going to be an exclusive. That is a big deal. That is potentially Microsoft's Spider-Man. And we got to remember, they also have many other games that are in the wings of this ABK deal that ultimately should be done by the end of August, and it's a very exciting time for Xbox. But Dean Rivera drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Saw his reaction on Twitter, and it was really heartwarming and really showed what it meant to have a passion and love for gaming. Made me smile." Indeed, Dean. Thank you so much for the kind words. Hargeet Chani, good friend, great friend of this program and the community, also panel member, not only to RDX, but the Primetime Gaming Show on Wednesday evenings. He says, "Forget the stupid social media vitriol. Phil is going to play that reaction in a meeting as to why they do what they do and why it matters." Awesome.
It feels awkward because I know people who work at Microsoft. we'll see if they message me.
Yeah, we also have Drawn TJ drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "When Microsoft owns Square Enix, and that could very well possibly happen, and Sega make a Final Fantasy and Phantasy Star universe crossover, that would be dope."
That'd be wild.
We have the Starfield guy. He says, "Guys, I've been an Xbox fan for 18 years. Finally bought a PlayStation 5 due to the recent discounts just for the exclusive. I'm blown away by Spider-Man. and GOT. Is that God of War?
God of War. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dude. I mean, they have amazing first party games.
No, they do.
Ignitic Dreams drops a very generous $2 super chat. Says, I'm going to keep saying it. Parasite Eve on Xbox. Yeah, Parasite Eve that's a classic OG Square Enix game. I was on PlayStation. That was so good. I didn't care for the second one, but I really loved the original. But Fuzzy, let's get your hot take on what his reaction was and what it means for this partnership.
Well, it's awesome to see reactions like that. It's like what I would be like if they announced that Forza Horizon 6 is in Japan or something like that, or back when we had the Fan Fest, not this year but last year, when they showed the first scenes for Forza Motorsport. I mean, being a big racing fan, that's the same type of reaction I wind up having for those types of games. So seeing someone excited for a game that they're a fan of is awesome. And I wish more people would not necessarily let loose, but look at gaming in that sense, as opposed to, oh, well, why is this person happy? It's like games are supposed to be fun, and to show how excited you are, especially when it looked like basically between Sony and Square Enix, they were playing keep away with Xbox. So to finally have kind of an answer or a response in the sense that we're now going to get more of these games on the platform, and a lot of us here in the chat and on this panel prefer Xbox as our primary platform. That's huge. Like, just imagine having your favorite game that you've always wanted to play always out of reach, and now it's actually going to be coming to the system. And things take time, and we're kind of hearing some of the back and forth as far as from the court documents that there was a time when Xbox had considered or came close to purchasing Square. So maybe that was why there was this falling out per se, when that didn't happen and ABK kind of landed in Xbox's lap.
Well, it's happened before too. So back in the original Xbox days, one of the things I see people seem to like, it's an early memory. They actually almost closed on Square Enix, and in the final signing, Square Enix said, we want more money. And so, like, at Microsoft buying Square, if it happens, I guess that's round 3 that we would know of publicly. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's awesome. It's like now we're actually getting them on board as far as working well together again, and hopefully moving forward, we'll see things like Octopath Traveler 2 on the platform, or any of the numbered Final Fantasy games coming in the future. I know there are going to be other ones that, because of contractual stuff like Forspoken, or even Final Fantasy 16, might take a little bit longer to get over on our platform. But it's just amazing to me how these things are kind of working out at this time. And it's like, ABK was kind of like that distraction that kind of had their hands tied, or at least it seemed that way to some extent. And Phil and Sarah Bond have been making numerous trips to that region and working with these studios to get the games that we've been asking for on the platform. So his reaction is right on point, refreshing, and awesome to see. And this whole partnership, much like we see with the partnership between maybe Microsoft and Sega, where everybody was like, oh, they're just doing that super game, there's nothing big to see here, and then all of a sudden we got a lot of those games day and date in Game Pass, which we've actually gotten a couple Square games day and date in Game Pass, like Outriders and things like that. So hopefully we get to see more of that again, and that would be an awesome thing moving forward. But man, I agree. And on the aspect of them kind of, the previous CEO kind of putting his foot in his mouth, like, oh, we want to be global, and it's like they're purposely playing keep away with Xbox. It's like, hey, it goes to the highest bidder. Oh, Xbox, you didn't want to bid? And before they even say that, we bid, and it's like they close the auction down type of thing. But this new CEO, I think a lot of times within business, or not that I've been in the gaming business, but more so the automotive stuff, you kind of see what previous leadership may have stumbled at. And when you probably get your chance to sit in that seat, a few things that you would do differently. And it looks like that's the case. I mean, much like with Phil, before he became head of Xbox, he probably saw some things that, it's like, oh, we don't have any studios. What are we going to do here in the next couple of years? And now he's at, has the keys to the machine, and He's making
now
the moves
and
that
I have
are
36
necessary.
studios.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
So
ridiculous.
so hopefully Square, the new CEO and leadership that's there, hopefully they're committed to growing the brand and not shaving their nose off to save their face kind of thing when there's plenty of people that are willing to buy their content on the platform they decided, oh, it's not worthwhile. So glad to see all of this. This is so awesome right now.
Yeah, indeed it is. You know what? Before we get you out of here, because you got to go. You got 15 minutes before you got to bounce.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
Ginger.
I go back to work.
Yeah, I do want you to reiterate your question, and then of course I'd like you to answer it, and then of course once we do your outro and we get you on out of here, we'll have the rest of the panel contribute their opinion, and we're going to get into another topic. But real quick, Pixelbit G, a good friend of the program, great friend of the program, I even dare say, says that the world needs a G.I. Joe hero shooter. My God, brother, you and I are we're in sync, man. I mean, we need a G.I. Joe, a good G.I. Joe game. I mean, could you imagine like a first person G.I. Joe shooter with Cobra? Oh, it's just too much. I can't take it. But please, Ginger, before you get out of here, reiterate your question, and I'd like you to answer it, and then we will attack it once you're on out of here.
The TLDR is the messaging and the actions always fell off by the CEO and saying we want to be a global company, we want to sell more games, but then and the actions are all just not on certain platforms. Even with the Pixel remasters, just launching on PC and then like having these weird timed exclusivity deals with everybody, and especially for narrative games like 16, it's like you're cutting off a huge part of the community and asking them to sit down and wait. And because that's what the majority of people who live on a budget do. Like, okay, well, I'm not going to, like, I'm crazy. I love, Final Fantasy. So I went and spent a lot of money, and that's, yeah, I get it. Exclusives work. But the question of the panel, Fantasy already kind of touched on it, but it said the mixed messaging. It was saying something and then doing the exact opposite, like saying like, and then coming out in every game was like, oh, sales didn't meet expectations. Forspoken is a classic example. I enjoyed Forspoken. I thought it's like a $40 game, perfect at $40, but PS5. At least it came to PC, but with insane requirements. And so, yeah, of course it meant you cut off a whole other platform. You're losing out, and it doesn't make sense to me. I was always just frustrated because it's like if they come out and say didn't meet sales expectations, it's like, can somebody hit them with a stick and just say, well, come on, you're cutting off a third of the market, or like or a fourth, however people want to divide it up. What do y'all think?
Well, I mean, look, for me personally, I think that the crux of the conversation is the fact that they are willing to take bags of money from someone like Sony to play keep away. I think ultimately, whatever Sony paid them, I don't think it's enough personally, especially when you consider Square spends a lot of money produce these games. Like they're in the hundreds of millions for these games, folks. I don't see Sony paying Square Enix hundreds of millions of dollars. Now I don't know. I don't have a contract in front of me, but there's something to be said about a deal. You got to remember, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I have the box right here. The sticker on the box says 1 year exclusive. That is supposed to come now. Sony came to them and was like, no, we're going to keep this more exclusive. Here's another bag. Now, what that bag was, I have no idea. I'm not in the room when they were signing these contracts. But the truth of the matter is that even though Final Fantasy VII Remake sold over, I think it's like 7 million now, when you consider how many PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s there are, it's the numbers don't match.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes perfect sense that Square Enix would be hurting for money. I know, again, how many people would have bought the Pixel collection on Xbox? I mean, I would have, because I'm an OG. You know what I'm saying? I played these games when they were on the NES, when they were on the Super NES. Mm-hmm. So I and they're remastered. They look phenomenal and they run phenomenal. But I'm not giving Square a dime of my money because they don't they don't respect me as a player, and more importantly as a consumer. And I'm not going to buy on another platform. And again, you folks have heard me. You've heard my take, my very, very public hot takes on my disdain for the way that they're not an inclusive company. And it appears to be very exclusive, and I don't like that. So I won't support Square Enix. I'm happy that this is happening, and I think that it does mean that many gamers who love Final Fantasy will ultimately be able to play. But I'm not going to support Square Enix until the change is happening, and we saw real change happen in the form of a new CEO. And again, he just got on the job in June, and in July, he's making a major deal with Xbox.
And I'd say for anybody on the fence, though, because like I can totally respect where you're coming from, but I would encourage people that, especially with this change, when these games come to Xbox, support them, because that is essentially going to then be that fuel. If it's like, oh, they put these games out, they don't sell, nobody cares, that's just going to add to that narrative, and it's going to make that all the much more difficult. So hopefully with this change and even more to come, and with, we start seeing the pixel remasters and day and date. I think day and date is the thing. I don't actually want Xbox to go and start taking the games away from, Final Fantasy away from PlayStation. I'd say just day and date, Give players
they don't
the choice.
have to, dude. They really don't see that. That's the thing, Ginger. The true exclusive for Xbox on titles, specifically third party, is the fact that they launch in Game Pass day and date. That is the exclusivity.
Right.
Where launch everywhere you want. Put it on any platform. Put it on your mobile phone. Put it on your PS5, your Switch, your refrigerator, whatever. But here, it drops in the Game Pass day and date, and that's the difference. That's the exclusive. But listen, brother, it was great to have you here. Again, congratulations on any success that you see moving forward. It's well earned. It's well deserved. You do a great job on your show. Please, before you get out of here, sell your brand. Tell people where they could find you on social media, but more importantly, subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you guys. And just to plug, I do a couple of different things that are a little bit, I guess different from how other content creators run their channels. I share a channel with my friend, Chris. It's called Work to Game. It's where we kind of do our podcasts and little vlogs to each one another. But I run my own channel called Ginger Prime, and I have what I call my breakout channels, where I cover games like Blue Protocol, New World. I also am a professional stand-up comedian, and so I have my channel Ginger Prime Comedy. It is a not safe for work. So if you watch it and get in trouble, I am not to blame. But at the same time, I hope that if you guys are looking for some comedy, I've been doing it for over a year and a half, having lots of success. They pay me to tell people jokes now, so it's great. I really love it if you guys give that channel a shot, and I'll be trying to continue to feed it with as much content as possible. But with 6 kids, and a job, I maybe get 1 to 2 shows a month, and then we try to take the best of it and put it online for you guys. So that's I would say start with the Ginger Prime channel, and I get reported a lot. Actually, I just got my first strike on one of my breakout channels. I didn't do anything. They were just, the company was being a dick. But I get reported a lot because like people hating on me is par for the course. They like, it is, I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I get reported, so I get suppressed quite a bit. So if you are subscribed and you don't see a video from me in a while, I generally post a couple of times a week at a minimum. So if anybody wants to really go above and beyond, just be sure to ring that bell and check out the content and, like it and stuff like that. Cause that's how the algorithm relearns. Cause I do have, that's why I create occasionally what I call purge videos. As a way of just kind of like getting the people who are just like, all right, I'm sick of this guy. So I'll make a video. Then like last year, I think I lost 2,000 subs, but I don't care. Like I will tell you guys the truth every day. I will not sit here and, I won't pull my punches, because if you don't want to follow and subscribe, I'm fine. I literally am fine. Like it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But I do know, and I counsel a lot and talk to a lot of creators who are afraid of telling people the truth because they're afraid of losing your follow and stuff like that. So just note, we won't always agree. And I think that's the important thing. Here's the thing. I'm not going to censor you. I'm not going to tell you you're an idiot. I'll have a conversation with you if we don't agree. And I think that's what we need to champion.
100%.
And it costs me a lot. Like I'll have people on my show that I don't agree with, and I'll get people like, I reported you, you're, I'm gonna kill your kids. Like I get a lot of hate. And I just, all I got to do is just try to love these people back, because just like Boom said, it's like some of them need a couch and a good therapist. And some of them just need to sometimes get like a swift kick in the nuts to wake up to realize, dude, grow up, be a man, make your parents proud, work freaking hard.
Yep.
Whatever you're into right now, you're a fucking boy. Grow the fuck up. Let's fucking go. Excuse my
no,
French.
I love it. I love it. No, listen, it is what it is. We're grown adults here. We don't normally curse here, but obviously we
I try to keep it like off of the YouTube for as much as possible, but we're an hour into the show. I think YouTube won't get you in trouble.
No, it's fine. But listen, Ginger, great to have you here, brother. We will continue this conversation once you're gone. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother, and thank you so much for stopping by.
I'll be lurking in on the show and listening to what you guys have to say, so you might see me pop up in chat. Love you guys. Thanks so much for having me,
too, brother. Enjoy.
I'll see y'all later.
Thanks for being here.
Take care, man.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Later.
So Crispy, let's close out this topic with because we obviously have the IGN one to get into, and man, oh man, I don't go out of my way to break out the torches and the pitchforks for someone like an IGN. I just won't support that. Now I want this to be very clear. Not everybody at IGN is a boob. There are so many amazing content creators, one of which that jumps off the page for me personally is Destin. I really like his stuff. Like, he is funny. He just finished putting his ridiculously expensive PC together, and listen, that's great, man. I love his content. I don't always agree with his takes, which is okay. There are many content creators at IGN that I absolutely adore. But this next story that we're going to get into after we hear from everybody is a bit of a head scratcher. They went out and they wrote a story defending the SSD usage for Ratchet and Clank when it has been already defunct. You can play this on an SD card. You can play this on an an HDD. It's no problem. They wrote a story where they basically said it's unplayable because they did the investigation. I don't understand that. Like, I mean, I get it for the clicks, but come on, that's a straight up lie. I'll read you the title story. We'll get to that in a hot second. Again, I'm sorry, man. It's just a head scratcher. It just really, really is. Sometimes they do things, and under the newer, leadership there, man, that's why I won't support them, man. But we'll get to it. Crispy, let's get into what Ginger Prime said about obviously we've heard pretty much everybody's take on the on the messaging. It's just not good at Square Enix. But in your personal opinion, seeing Phil on there, seeing him get the applause that he did, he's obviously known. What do you think this where does the needle get moved for Square Enix games coming to Xbox moving forward?
Well, I think Dave was on to something with the new CEO thing. I think that's a big deal. You have to have open thinkers, and also, what Prime said is basically logical. Like, your actions are not your words. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a global gaming publisher, you need to go into the crux of it and say, okay, Xbox does matter, especially on the Western front, which, by the way, I mean, MMO, RPG, whatever, Xbox got a lot of MMOs. You could say it's an RPG, but Fallout 76 is an MMO. Elder Scrolls Online, MMO. Okay. There is clearly a good base for a game like this. This is why I said earlier, you have to realize that this is the perfect game to bring Final Fantasy to Xbox in tenfold and say, this is what we're trying to do. And 16 being not even on PC is mind-boggling, to be honest with you. When I saw that, I said, why? I mean, your base has PC involved too. So the only thing I can say is Sony, they dropped the bag. I don't think it was as big a bag as Phil probably dropped the other day. I'm just saying, because I felt like Phil was like, walking out there with a big old bag of money, and he's just like, here, and we're going to help you and support you as well. And that's why, like, people ignore the fact that Xbox's entire like development team is expanding as support studios for other gaming, and it might be within a studio, for example, the Coalition. Okay. But that's where I go and say, like, there's a few people throwing these names. Dude, they're gonna buy People Who Can Fly. I'm telling you, they're gonna buy them.
Yeah, absolutely are.
On Unreal is too important to Xbox right now. They are fully in support of it. They've seen the magic that the Coalition can do. And fortunately, you have People Who Can Fly who got screwed by Square Enix. They said it themselves, by the way. If you go and look at it, they are going to say, you know what? Like, Square Enix was in bed with Sony. Now they have a different CEO. Hopefully they change their ways, but you have to be cautiously optimistic. Like, yes, we get this one game. Does that mean that, 17 is going to be on Xbox? We don't know yet. They also, 14, we're at 16, eventually they're going to come out with a new online component. Maybe this is that thought process of, having a partnership with a majorly online centric company like Xbox. And the one thing I have to say is the people that said fire Phil, you get the middle finger in the air, bro, because you are dumb. Because that man is a gamer and he actually listens. And I applaud him because I never seen Jim Ryan on stage with Square. Just saying. So actions speak louder. I'm starting to see the actions. And I don't want Square to go. I don't even want Square to get bought out. I want them to actually look at Xbox as a viable platform to develop for. And it seems like they're going in that route because you just don't have Phil come out there and I mean, literally, like I said, being awkward at times because he's like, I don't need all this. Like, I'm here. Like, I don't need all this love. Like, hey, give him a round of applause. I understand the nuances and, having different languages involved. But I felt at times he was just sitting there like, I wasn't expecting this. Like, so I say, be optimistic. I'm with you, Boom. Like, Square has said some really messed up stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are,
Yep.
I mean, you could say what you want, but like they gave Outriders their flowers and then they didn't pay People Who Can Fly. So what does People Who Can Fly do? They're not going to go with the people that, they felt that Sony and Square were in bed with each other. So now they've signed a partnership, hundreds of millions of dollars to develop a game for Xbox exclusively. They moved to Canada, right next to the Coalition. Think about that. Okay. And this is where Square needs to not push good developers out. Because I'm sorry if you haven't played Bulletstorm, or you can't say that even though I hate the way Judgment did their multiplayer, the fact is that game was gorgeous. It was on the 360. That game was impeccable looking. Okay. They have the talent. And that's where I say, go for it. I want to see, after this ABK deal, I want to see Phil reach out to these smaller developers that may have been shunned by other companies or publishers and say, it's time for you to come home and we will treat you right. You know what I'm saying? And the actions are there. I mean, you see how Fable looked. Okay. Playground got pulled under the wing. Fable looked amazing. Okay. Like unheard of amazing. I'm going to be honest.
Ninja Theory is another perfect example of that.
Ninja Theory, dude, they just keep cooking. Let them cook. Okay. I want a game that's like, that's going to put a smile on my face. Be like, man, I've never experienced this before. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And for the Xbox fans, you look at that, you had Phil on stage. This is happening. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like you're finally going to get Final Fantasy Online on an Xbox. And I think they're going to support the heck out of it. And that's a good thing. And, you know, and this CEO clearly sees that you can get sales because it's like they took the bag, but they got screwed in the end. Because I mean, let's be honest, 4 million to 40 million. What is that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not a good ratio, dude.
And people, and the worst part is, I guarantee half the people that were talking ish saying, "Oh, we got this, Final Fantasy 16, we got this." Well, guess what? You got it. Nobody supported it.
Yep.
I mean, seriously. Like, I get that you guys want to say, "Hey, Xbox gamers don't play games." Well, what do you mean? Like, we play multiplayer games. We don't get achievements for everything, buddy. Like, do you understand that? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Like, be old school and put out my KD and stuff and all this stuff? Like, you know, we used to do like, oh, I'm a 1.2 KD and I've had 1,000 matches. Like, is that what you want? Do you want the entire year I spent on Gears in my life? You want me to just tout that out? Because not many people can say that. You know what I'm saying? Between all the Gears, I spent an entire year of my life on Gears. That's a lot of hours, people. A whole lot of hours. So just stop with that narrative. Like, we like multiplayer. This is a multiplayer game. It is completely logical and it makes total sense. And it's still going to bring Square revenue, which is going to help them. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully this continues, even if they have a single player game. You know, we get that as well because we will support it. I'm sorry. If somebody likes it, they're going to buy it. You know what I mean? I don't think Square is going to be releasing things day and date in Game Pass anytime soon, unless it's a you know, like an Outriders or something that's like kind of out of the box, which I mean, Outriders, you know, they did the right thing because, you know, you had people that love Gears and they're like, you know, here's a Gears-esque with like some magical elements in there, you know, and they explained it pretty well. So I don't know. I feel like with Microsoft's backing, they could make some games that are pretty special. You know what I mean? And I think that's important, you know?
Well, I mean, a lot of people suggest that when Microsoft teams up with somebody like People Can Fly, it's a test to a potential acquisition. At least that's what the rumors say. I feel you're going to see before you get another announcement for a publisher. I think Microsoft is going to sew up a lot of these single edge studios, IO Interactive, Asobo, People Can Fly. You know, maybe Certain Affinity gets acquired. Obviously, I'm still on the camp that we're going to get Crystal D and Eidos Montreal from Embracer in a package deal. We will soon see. But you know, speaking of numbers, Dave, you're a numbers guy. Obviously, you know, banking is your thing. Just want to just for perspective, we talk about numbers in Final Fantasy 14 specifically. Now, I pulled the story from Tweaktown, written by Derek Strickland. The story is relatively older. It was, let's see, I'll tell you exactly when it was written. It was updated on June 27th of last year, 2022. Now, I looked for numbers on the fly. I could not find it, what I was particularly looking for, but I did find some interesting numbers. So, folks, just to show you how much money that this game makes currently, only on the PlayStation and on PC. According to Derek Strickland of Tweaktown, he said that Square Enix had big plans for Final Fantasy 14 throughout 2022. The more part of the MMO did extremely well last year, according to its fiscal 21's record operating profits. Listen to this, folks. Their new segment, Final Fantasy 14's Endwalker expansion, generated $511 million throughout the year. Think about that for a second. $500 million plus. was generated by this one game on 2 platforms. Now, Dave, you add Xbox to this.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're talking money for Square. So this is a win-win for Xbox and Phil Spencer and its players. This is also a giant win for Final Fantasy as a brand, and more importantly, Square Enix. Let's get your hot take on it.
Yeah, it most definitely is. This is, it opened up more avenues for them. There is a big part of the gaming community that plays on Xbox and PC, and has access to this, and are big fans of the Final Fantasy franchise. It's huge. It really is big, especially in the U.S. So there's that, and then when you start off playing, say you have never played Final Fantasy 14 before, well, you can actually start and play for free. So you can play up to level 70 without buying a thing. And then that's how they get you hooked, because you're up to 70, you got all these jobs, you got all your friends that are up to 90 plus now. And so that's when you're like, well, maybe I'll go ahead and bite the bullet and spend a little bit of money and get it. And that's how they kind of get you in the ecosystem, because it is a really good game, lots of lore. If you're fans of Final Fantasy at all, you're going to be able to play all the classic characters, classic bosses. They have some really great setups. It's a lot of fun. It's very, whether you want to play solo, which you're able to do that, or you want to play with a few friends or a huge allegation of friends, you can do that as well too. And it's really nice that they brought it to it, and it's going to be financially beneficial to all parties. And of course, it's also Square knows that this kind of opens the door again to maybe making some other things available. I don't know that they're going to be able to like we don't know the contractual agreement as far as like 7. We assumed it was supposed to come out at one point, the 7 remake, and that at some point maybe this kind of loosens those ties up to where other things can start popping in place, because it's just, if it's not on the Xbox, it's just lost revenue for them. And that's really the big way for them to look at it. So it is a big thing. It's a big deal for both parties. And plus it really solidifies the effort that Phil and his team are putting into making sure that the Japanese market, the Asian market, is included in their global growth going forward.
I mean, it makes sense, dude. It's all about making money. Like I say, you can rah for any team that you want, but at the end of the day, these corporations need to make money, and it's a big deal. Listen, before we get into the IGN ridiculousness, which is not going to be very long, but it's just, it has to be mentioned because it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Honestly, I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. But let's get your hot take on this. Obviously, Final Fantasy 14, it's literally keeping the ship afloat at Square Enix. There's just no doubt about it. We know that their games that they invest in, something very similar to like a Final Fantasy 16, hundreds of millions of dollars goes into this game development. They spend some of the most money in gaming. This coming to Xbox is going to open up another source revenue for them that they were lacking, keeping Microsoft's Xbox and its players boxed out. The new CEO seems to be have his head where it needs to be, making money for his investors, keeping the company afloat. And I like the fact that Phil is out there. Him walking on stage in the most unexpected. No one expected Phil to be there. There was no rumblings. There were no rumors. He shocked the world, and we saw what the reaction was of Ginger Prime. I think there were a lot of Final Fantasy fans that felt that way. They just didn't have it on tape. Well, let's get your hot take on this.
Yeah, it was an awesome event. I think the big thing is anytime you get a new influx of players, it's going to be a huge thing for them moving forward. Now, I know there was some controversy with like Activision before the acquisition and everything, where a lot of people were leaving World of Warcraft and a few of their other Blizzard titles and migrating over to Final Fantasy 14, and it was actually breaking the servers as far as the amount of players coming on board. And I know they've since then they've fixed that, and possibly partnering with a great server provider with Azure with Microsoft. I think having that influx of Xbox players is going to not only help them with the revenue, but maybe some of the Microsoft server usage might also be able to help with the server load. Just because whenever you have a new thing on a platform or even Game Pass, and I was thinking maybe we see some Xbox perks, kind of like what you see for was it Black Pearl, not Black Pearl Abyss, but I forget the game that Pearl Abyss does right now, but yeah, there's so much potential with it coming to the platform that, finally those that were, missing out or didn't really want to switch over to full on PC as far as accessing the game can now play it on their console. And that's huge. Moving forward, I hope, the partnership also allows, like, kind of like what Dave was saying, them to do like some reinvesting back into their other properties that will hopefully also move forward and be on the Xbox platform as well. Like Crispy was saying, we don't know if Final Fantasy 17 is going to be guaranteed on Xbox, but this is definitely a good step forward or a step in the right direction to help make that possible, or even have it feasible at this point, considering the way Sony was money hatting things to some extent. So all of this moving forward, awesome to see. Hoping Xbox as a whole, they start focusing on some of the smaller studios for the acquisitions after the fact, like what Crispy was saying with Certain Affinity, IO Interactive and things along those lines. But if Square is on that target list, I mean, they do have a significant presence in the mobile space, and that's one of the things that Microsoft is looking to do moving forward. So who knows how that if that even happens or if that plays out. I know there's a lot of debate on Sega or Square as far as Microsoft making an acquisition over there, but Microsoft is big enough to make an acquisition of both, if at all possible. But yeah, it's just awesome that they have a new CEO, not financially adverse. It seemed like the other one was more risk adverse and financially adverse as far as avoiding platforms that even though it may not be the biggest revenue stream, it's still a revenue stream. And I don't think the porting of a game over to Xbox, it honestly shouldn't be that much different than what it is for PC. So if you're going to go through the motions of porting for PC, it's similar coding, similar back end stuff. So I can't see why they were, avoiding Xbox prior, but moving forward with this new partnership, yeah, anything is possible. And hopefully we get was it Octopath Traveler 2 here soon?
Yes,
either in Game Pass or at least on Xbox in general. And
well,
then,
I mean, it
like
launched on
earlier,
Game Pass when it came out for, because remember, it launched as a Switch exclusive originally, but when it released on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox, it came to Game Pass day and date.
Yeah. And then the Pixel remasters, that would be nice to have on the platform as well. Like you said, it was on everything, including Mac, which I don't know.
Figure.
But yeah, it moving forward, they got some not really explaining to do, but they got some stuff they got to get wrapped up here soon to get over to the platform. And who knows, maybe they'll be celebrating like Capcom and a few of the other developers or publishers over in the East that decide to put games on Xbox, and they reap the benefits. Hopefully Square will be able to do the same here soon.
Look, yeah, I mean, listen, everyone has some fantastic points, folks. Before we get on out of here, we do have one small topic. And again, I say small because I don't really put IGN at a place where I'd like to click on their stuff. Like I told you, I stopped supporting IGN years ago because of their antics. I don't like the way they do business. I really don't. I do like several of their content creators. Again, Destin Legary being one of them. I really do dig his stuff, and I'm a big fan of his channel, and I support him every time he's out there watching his stuff and sharing it and liking it because I like Destin. But that doesn't mean I have to like IGN, because I don't. And why I bring this up, Crispy, is because even after after the claims by Insomniac and by PlayStation and many of their hierarchy that the Magic SSD in the PlayStation 5 is so unicorn-like that nothing else could could be used without it, and Ratchet and Clank being one of them, specifically with the way that it loaded, where you were going from one world to the other. Well, that was debunked, but that was also debunked before the story was written, and to me it's a bit of a head scratcher. They write a story, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart BC version, basically unplayable without an SSD. Like, how many did you guys test it? Did you read the tea leaves? This again, this is why I don't support them, because this is they're capping for Sony in a way which we know Sony keeps the lights on for IGN. We know that, but what are your hot takes on this?
I mean, boom! It's just it drives me crazy that a journalist, like literally IGN is about gaming, and I see some posts about movies. You know what I'm saying? Once in a while. And they can't do research. Like, they don't have enough people to say, hey, like, try this on here, try this on here. Like, before somebody writes an article that is, I mean, the article is kind of like saying, like, yeah, it plays. Well, I thought it couldn't play. Like, let's be straight here. They said it couldn't play on anything but the SSD on the PlayStation back when it came out. Do you remember? I remember. Sorry. Like, sorry that I remember the fact that they touted this SSD, that it's like magical new, technology that basically is like, oh, you can't do this on anything else. Well, the game plays on an SD card, people. It plays on there. And this is what I call bad business, shoddy marketing. And I just want to sell you a console. And that's exactly what they did. And then they spit in your face and released it on PC, because the specs for the PC can't be that good when you can play it on a Steam Deck. I'm just saying.
Yeah, makes sense.
This was all out there before they posted this article. And what did I say? Oh, I expect Kotaku or IGN. IGN was the second one that I said they're going to probably put out some stupid article that is completely irrelevant, have a crazy thought process in the title, and then all of a sudden also put their foot in their mouth, which they did, by the way. They put their foot in their mouth, because at the end of the day, all I heard is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart could not be played on anything but a PS5. And that is a lie, an absolute lie. If you like to be lied to, go buy a PlayStation, especially for their lied to exclusives, because they keep lying to you. You keep acting like, these certain games can't be played. Like, if God of War Ragnarok could be played on a PS4 with the visuals that it has, how in God's name is Rift Apart not able to be optimized to be played on there? Yeah, you played Final Fantasy 16 at 720p, people. Like, and that's on the PS5. Like, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here? Resolution is only in the eyes of the beholder. And unfortunately, you guys have decided that resolution matters, and also that SSD is absolutely magical. Well, I'll tell you right now, every Xbox exclusive I play looks pretty damn good. I'm just saying. And it plays pretty damn good. So we're going to sit here and act like, oh, it's acceptable that, IGN puts this title on there that is absolutely ridiculous and unheard of. And the funny thing is that even Twitter destroyed it. And they used,
the community came out in a big way, dude. Like, yeah, the cap on this dude, it was just bad optics all around. And mind you, you hit the nail on the head there, Crispy Bomb. This story came out after it was publicly debunked. People showing you this working just as good on their Steam Deck.
And that's mind-blowing. And then you have Twitter allowed people to cite, oh no, it's Alex, who, I mean, sometimes I'm like, dude, like you play on PC all the time, but this PC dude's like, bro, like this will play. Like, trust me, it will play. It plays on a, not a solid state drive. It plays on an old school hard drive easily. And then you have people like my brother K Mega was like, yo, like this plays on my Steam Deck, dude. Like, come on, like you guys. This is the point, okay? Like, I get it doesn't run quite as good on the PS5, but they probably did that on purpose, to be honest with you. And also, I've seen games that run worse that are brand new that come out on all platforms, by the way. So can you relax the fact that PlayStation just lied to you? That's all. You bought a PlayStation 5 because you couldn't play Ratchet and Clank anywhere else. And I'm sure there's some people out there that did that. Well, guess what? You can. And they did it. Nobody else did it. They released it on PC. Okay? That's not our problem. All right? The fact is that I just don't like being lied to. That's it. No, and that's why I haven't bought a PlayStation 5 yet. The only thing that will get me to buy a PlayStation 5 is if SOCOM comes out, because I want multiplayer and single player. I want you to go back to where your roots were when you were doing that really well. And I want you to bring me, I don't want gas game. I want your old school single player, multiplayer element. I want that. Okay. And until then, I'm not touching the PlayStation. I'm going to say, you know what? You lied enough. You think you bamboozled some people. Well, no, eventually they're going to have some hatred for you because you lie and you lie and you lie. And you actually put your own foot in your mouth and put it out there. Hey, I'm releasing it on PC. Like, come on, man. Like, we gotta call a spade a spade. And sometimes you got to say, you know what? Enough's enough, Sony. You got to start actually speaking the damn truth instead of trying to just sell something to us. And until then, I have no problem saying I'm not buying a PlayStation. I refuse to play it. I don't even care. And that's where I go back and say, like, I've never had anything taken from me on Xbox. If anything, they give me more. They give me exclusives and Game Pass. I pay for the service. Big deal. Okay, deal with it. Like, there's no point in sitting there and being like, Sony is the magical being. They are the market leader. They are trashing you all day.
Well, they're sitting on laurels, brother. That's really what it comes down to.
And then IGN, boom, doubles down and says, oh, we're getting the bag. We already seen it. We seen it with just that article. You're getting the bag. We know it. Okay? What credibility do you have? You have zero credibility. And until IGN becomes, because, you know, I always modeled them off of Game Informer back in the day. Game Informer was a good magazine.
It's still, I still like the way that they write. I'm a big fan of Game Informer. I still subscribe.
You know, but IGN used to be modeled after them. And all of a sudden, they've flipped the script and been like, you know, we're all about one company. And it's completely prevalent. Even when Ryan McCaffrey goes out and says stupid crap about Xbox and like brings this hate, it's asinine. Okay, like, why are we at this point? Like, gamers are going to be gamers. You're going to choose the platform you want. But when a supposed journalistic company says, oh, this is important, we got to word it this way and put this headline out there for this article. Why? It was debunked already. It's been all over Twitter. You pay people to be on Twitter? We all know this. I mean, even Microsoft and Sony, they pay people to see reactions and stuff. You know, they might be an intern, they might be whatever, but they're there and nobody cares. Oh, what? So you're a fanboy then? And that's the way I look at it. Like, IGN's basically, you know, Sony fandom, you know, just going to the extreme at times. And it's unfortunate. And I wish we had some journalistic integrity at this point, especially when it comes to gaming, because it feels like we're going into politics at times, which is ridiculous.
Dude, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Good on you for the rant. Appreciate the tenacity that you bring to each and every show you're on. Let's get Fuzzy Belvedere's Dave had to step out. Something happened at work that he needed to go handle. So we obviously will have him back on Fridays. Breakfast at Boom. Shout out to Dave for being here. But Fuzzy, let's get your last hot take. Then I'll get to the last super chats, and then we'll get everyone out of here so they can continue their day. More ridiculousness, and I would even dare say, Fuzzy, embarrassment for IGN.
Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me that they pick the weirdest topics to get clicks. Like, of all the things that would probably be a better posting or a more fan centric or gaming centric topic would be like, oh, it's coming to PC, so now it's available to more players. No. You could probably say something along the lines of, with it coming to PC, this port was kind of polished right out the bat, unlike The Last of Us, the previous one. So they could have focused on other good aspects of the deal. No, instead they want to go with, I guess, even the same thing like with Digital Foundry, where they're like, oh, it's unplayable on a hard drive. Well, if you take a hard drive that's probably been sitting idle in your basement and it's got like 16 layers of dust, and you just barely brush it off to install this game and all the updates that you probably need on Windows from 2 years ago that you haven't done on that laptop or PC or whatever, of course there's going to be other issues. But it's funny when the non-journalists or the podcasters or the streamers, somebody like oh no, it's Alex, is out there doing these port tests with more credibility than these big system or big journalists or gaming news media centrals. Like, if you're not going to test various speeds of hard drives or external drives or SD cards and things, you should probably not do the story without at least having at least some form of research saying, well, some feedback has shown that some people see a 1 to 2 second stutter. That would be an honest take, as opposed to it's unplayable. Like, I've stopped really paying attention to IGN, like, and not to pick on Ryan McCafferty, but like after the whole debacle about, oh, well, the Tomb Raider thing, I can't get behind that, but yet you can't get him to say anything opposed to when.
Well, he applauded the Final Fantasy one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like he went out there and he was like, oh no, this is great. This is great by PlayStation. Like, dude, are you? I mean,
it's like, it's bad when Microsoft does it or Xbox does it, but good when PlayStation does it. It's like IGN. I get it. Your bread is buttered by PlayStation. They give you the game codes early. They probably pay for or help pay for some of the advertising and stuff like that. That's good. But if you want credibility, if you want to show some journalistic integrity, at least put out a story that's based in fact, or as opposed to getting debunked on Twitter or the social media app formerly known as Twitter. Because to me, that was just funny. Like, you usually see that about like crazy things you would see on like some, third part, or not third party, but like a small blog where they're posting a story about conspiracy theories or something like that. And then you have the little debunk thing under it. No, this is gaming media gets debunked on Twitter. It's like, that alone should make them want to delete the article. But no, they probably got enough traffic and clicks to pay for this month's light bill and whatnot. But
maybe, yeah,
man, it just never ceases to amaze me. It's sad, and it goes to show why podcasters and streamers are having more of a following or getting more success than some of these big outlets and things, just because, I mean, you're better off having it where it's like your friend giving you feedback on a game, as opposed to a company where they might be funded by that said company to post that article and insurance to get you to buy the hardware, which is silly to me. I don't know, but Bad on IGN for not celebrating the game on PC being available to more players. Bad for them not calling out that this port was more polished. Nix's is on a roll now, and it just sucks that they picked a bad take on something that was debunked by basically everybody with a potato PC or a Steam Deck or any type of hard drive out there. So, oh well.
Well, sometimes like all I could say is that if you don't believe us, go back and see when was the last time they criticized Sony, because I can't remember once that they've ever criticized Sony for anything that they've done improperly, whether that be skip platforms, pay to market games on their own platform, to keep games away from other platforms. You'll never see them write a bad article because they're in bed with Sony. But you know what? At the end of the day, I say support who you want to support. IGN is someone I don't support. I won't. Like I said, I had to unfortunately click on the article, so I was a part of the problem, but I didn't have the picture. I think I left it on my phone. I don't have my phone in front of me, so there you go. They got a click from Mr. Boom. Let me catch up on these super chats, and we'll get everyone the H out of here. Maxie Coleman drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Did you see the Colin Moriarty and Destin video interview? Any chance we can see him here?" Well, here's the thing. It's in the queue to watch, which I'm going to start watching it probably when I start, because I have to go and do my regular workout, which I put on pause to do that show earlier today. I don't know if I'd want to interview Colin. He's had such really bad takes, and I you know what, man, I don't like a lot of his takes, man. I mean, I supported Colin for years when he left IGN, when he teamed up with Greg Miller, and when they split, I still supported Colin. And then he kind of went down a path I wasn't a real fan of, and he's been very anti-Xbox, and he peddles a lot of stuff that I'm not a fan of. So I don't know. First of all, I think this show is way too small for him to even bother with. But more importantly, I'm not looking for an argument. I'll have a conversation, but he's very argumental, and I'm not that kind of personality, so I don't want to fight with him. Let him have his opinion. He's a very successful man. They take nothing away from what he's done with his company. Obviously, he snatched up Cognito, and Cognito does Defining Duke with Maddie Plays, which is an amazing show. But I don't think that I would want to do a one-on-one with him. I'm going to be honest with you. He might be looking for a fight that I'm not looking forward to. I'm not looking for a fight. I don't come to these podcasts to fight. I come here to celebrate gaming and community. I have a very, very stout opinion, and I'm not looking to go one-on-one with him. Not that I would lose. I think I'd give him a run for his money because he's a very, very smart dude, Colin. But he's also very pointed in a PlayStation direction that I have a lot of. I just a lot of his takes I do not agree with. So, but thank you, brother. Thank you for the generosity. Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "If Microsoft buys who I mentioned, Mechasort Transformers crossover, G.I. Joe and Gears of War crossover." I love what you're putting down. I think a lot of the licenses might be an issue, but we know that Hasbro definitely wants to work with Microsoft and specifically Xbox to bring a new Transformers as well as their old ones. So maybe G.I. Joe can come over, and maybe someone like the Coalition does a G.I. Joe game. I like what you're putting down. That's dope. Game Shark drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Titanfall with Transformers. Think about it. Yeah, that would be crazy dope. I would love that." And last and no way least, Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Phil Spencer not only saved Xbox after Don Matrix, but got Satya Nadella to invest in Xbox like they should have 20 years ago. He got Bethesda and now ABK." Yeah, his legacy is going to be looked upon as probably the greatest block of a platform leader as you could possibly get. I mean, he is by leaps and bounds outpacing anyone before him, and I don't even know how you'd one up Phil Spencer. And mind you, he's not done, folks. I think we got Phil for at least, and again, I don't know. He's probably around my age, maybe just a tad bit younger. Maybe he's in his He just turned 50, maybe he's 51, 52. I don't know if he's ready for retirement. I think we got Phil probably for another 5 years, give or take. He's not done, folks. Phil's legacy is going to be one for the record books. That's all I got. But you know what? We're going to get into what Phil's been doing. I'm going to have a nice sit down with King David on Thursday's X Vlog Live. I cannot wait to get into it. But let's get to the outros. Obviously, you know where you can find Web Dave. You know where you can find Ginger Prime. All their information is currently in the show notes right now. When it goes live, just double click and subscribe to them. But Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place and to find you on social media. What else you got going on, brother?
At Chris Baum on Twitter, Chris Baum 20 Xbox Live. Usually you can find me on Breakfast with Boom, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a BoomStick exclusive, and I'll be where I am. You never know. Other than that, I mean, be a gamer. Don't hate people for having enjoyment, for the love of God. I mean, seriously. And also, you know, don't let a corporation just take a turd on you, man. Come on.
Sell your lies and you just lap it up. I love it.
You know, so other than that, I mean, great to see everybody in the chat, and it was great to be on again, as usual. We'll see you then.
Great to have you back on, brother, as per the norm. And of course, last and no way least, Fuzzy Belvedere, brother, please sell your brand. Tell everyone where the best place for anything and everything racing can be found on your YouTube channel, as well as people find you on social media.
Oh, just want to start off by thanking you for having me on. It's always awesome being on here with Crispy as well as Web Dave. I know he had to hop out earlier, but shout out to Dave, and then also Ginger Prime. It was awesome having you on here and hearing your feedback on hopefully the future with Square and everything. For those that want to hear my endless rambles and rants on anything gaming, just follow me on pretty much any social media, including the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. YouTube, it's Fuzzy Belvedere altogether. Trying to release short videos on Forza stuff coming up with Motorsport, hopefully between now and October 10th. Getting real excited for that. And then for those who want to see me in other places as well, you can also find me on FSP later tonight on Fun Speculations channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then right back here for Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here. Look forward to seeing you there. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And speaking of Mav, folks, if you are a fan of me, I think you should probably be a fan of Mav on Fun Speculation, folks. He is a few subs away from 4K. Get over to him, follow him on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter. I don't care what they changed the name to. And hit him up, man. Hit him up and subscribe. He's almost at 4K. That's a big deal. He works super, super hard, and obviously he was a big part of Xbox Factor podcast for many, many years. But obviously, real life work took him away, and we had to find new members, which we have currently right now. Tomorrow, don't forget, folks, Zemi Games joining us to talk about the Oblivion remake that is out there in the ether. I mean, what? Are you kidding me? And yes, I will be buying Force Armor day and date. 12 o'clock tomorrow, Xbox Factor podcast with special guest Zemi Games to talk about Oblivion and Skyrim. Could you imagine not like a 4K one? I mean, like a remade one as we wait for the other the next Elder Scrolls. Sign me up, yes please. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all of the incredible super chats that came in today. A big thank you to all of the support that we continue to get and gather here on Double Barrel Gaming. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. That's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, Craig, I can guarantee you you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.